So Parshas Bereshis, Rabbi Isai, certainly one of the more difficult parshas to fully comprehend. So I'm not going to be that bold to try to tackle the secrets of the universe in the way so many of the Rishonim try to explain, and it's very, very daunting to try to get a handle on it. And I'm not going to go there. I don't feel worthy and qualified to try to give you an insight on the 6 days of creation on an intimate, intricate level. But I think there are some incredible lessons, even in this very, very difficult parsha. There are some incredible lessons we can take with us that we need to remember and know, not just right now, but really for the rest of our lives. And maybe right after Simchas Torah, it's really very fitting that we go from a Simchas Torah to Parshas Bereshis. Maybe it makes perfect sense. Because of the fact that the very first Rashi tells us a hashkafas hachayim, a certain world vision that we need to have. And I'm not sure it's politically correct, because we're living in a world where any type of exceptionalism, right, is very much argued and destroyed and demeaned by the left. And I am not trying to get political now. I don't want to turn this into a right-left issue, but you need to understand what's going on. The very same forces that will not recognize and refuse to accept American exceptionalism, the very same concept that sort of we are all created equal, and no matter what you do, no matter what I do, it's pretty much a fundamental result of our upbringing and our situation, and basically there are no real accountabilities for your actions because you were more privileged, so you have this, and I'm less privileged, so I have that, and therefore what I do is sort of excused. That whole mentality that we're all in this sort of global universe together and we're sort of all equal. And there's no recognition of somebody rising to a higher level. And that is really a message that the left is trying to literally brainwash us with. The idea that this incredible country, that since 1776, since its founding time, which has been a beacon of freedom, and a place where people have found, and Klal Yisrael has found, such incredible protection of religious freedoms. And we are exceptional as a country. And we should recognize the flag when the Star-Spangled Banner is being sung. We should recognize the people who gave their lives for our freedom. Nothing wrong with looking at the world and seeing for what it is. Well, from a Jewish point of view, Rabbi say, we also have to recognize our exceptionalism. Does not make us better no matter what. It does not mean no matter what I do, I'm superior to a Gentile. I'm better than a Gentile. It doesn't mean that. Because if anything, we're worse. If we're not careful about what we do, if we don't fulfill this unique special mandate that the Torah is telling us in this week's Parsha what this world is about. But Bereshis bar Elokim es Hashemayim v'Haaretz, maybe the most famous pasuk in a sense, because who doesn't quote it? Okay, and everyone says, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, and Rashi says, no. It does not mean that. Don't read it, in the beginning God created heaven and earth. It's on a timeline in this very first pasuk that we read, the first pasuk of the Torah, which we actually read as well on Simchas Torah. Bereshis bar Elokim es Hashemayim v'Haaretz means Bereshis b'shvil Reshis. You want to know God says to the world, you want to know why I made the world? It's not a put down to the Gentiles. Gentiles have their place of being able to achieve special things. And the amount of hakaras hatov we have to have to a nation like this is boundless. Look what they've done for us. Look how much freedom we have to be able to do what we couldn't do in Europe for centuries after centuries. But I want you to know why I put this world together. B'shvil Reshis, because of what I call Reshis. What is Reshis? Bereshis bar Elokim es Hashemayim v'Haaretz. You want to know why God put this whole world, this massive universe, this beyond anybody's ability to even talk about in terms of what it is. It's ever expanding. It's ever growing. It's almost limitless. It's not quite infinite, but we don't know where it ends. Why is this all here? Because after all, we do know that it didn't just get here. We're not going to buy into this concept that out of nothing came something, without a prime mover and shaker and force that put it all together. It's an inexplicable belief that anybody with any rational sense of clarity would never buy into. It's a philosophy that's rooted in the idea that I don't want a God, and I don't want feelings of guilt and of responsibility, so I'm just going to say, you know what, it just got here. And when you press these people, you know what they end up saying? Even the geniuses of the world end up with ideas like aliens and who knows what. Hawking with his 190 IQ didn't have an answer. Comes up with some excuse to basically do what he wants to do. Because if you, at the end of the day, if you're honest and you believe in a prime force, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that put this world together, you have to believe he did it for a reason. You can't believe it's all happenstance and all just one big game. It doesn't make sense. It's not plausible to a thinking individual. And this is why it says Rabbi Avrohom Stulberger, from the time a 13-year-old boy gets his chumash and his siddur and officially is welcomed into the family of mitzvos, from that second on he has an obligation to believe in God. Despite the Aristotles and the Platos and the Socrates and the Nietzsches who maybe were contemplating this whole issue, says Rabbi Avrohom Stulberger, if you're honest and you're clear and you're thinking and you're 13 years old, yes, you can see the truth. You cannot buy into the fact that this whole thing just happened. Don't ask me what and how, it just happened. I don't know, it just happened. So Rabbi says, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us at the very beginning, in the very first Parsha, you want to know why I put this world together? Because of the Torah and because of Klal Yisrael. Shenikah Bereshis. Rashi shows two sources at the word Bereshis, which means pinnacle, beginning, crowning. It's not a timeline. It's a certain level of exceptionalism, of greatness. I want you, the world, to know, why did I do this? And I want you to know it because if anybody says 5,700 plus years later that Jewish people taking over Israel, it's not fair. like we never hear that one, right? It's not fair. They just came and they took over the land. We knocked off the 7 nations, we took over the land, and we came back after World War II and we attacked the Arabs, okay, which is also not true, but that's what they say, and we're such oppressive people, and here we are taking over land in Israel, in the Middle East. What kind of baloney? What kind of chutzpah? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, get my world straight, guys. I made this world for exceptionalism. I made this world because of Klal Yisrael and because of the Torah. And yes, in an honest mode, when you see the world for what it really is, while there's so many other factors going on in the world, at the end of the day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us here, and we can ask, so little old me, I get to be part of the Jewish people, I get to be part of that 0.01% of the population. How did that happen? Well, you know what? We should thank our lucky Hashgacha Pratis that that's what happened, but you know what? That's who we are. We are part of that elite few. And we're not elite unconditionally. We're not special unconditionally. We're special because we were given a special task. If a Navy SEAL doesn't do what a Navy SEAL is supposed to do, he's not a Navy SEAL anymore. He maybe once was. I guess he can always keep the title, but you're not functioning the way you need to function. Exceptionalism means that you have to stand up for what you are. You have to know why you were put into this world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, I made this world because of Klal Yisrael, I made this world because of Torah, I made this world for this synergy between HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Klal Yisrael, and that's what we were dancing about a couple of days ago. When we were dancing with that Torah, we just weren't trying to just, match our moves, or I don't know what was going on in maybe other place, but here there was incredible, beautiful dancing in an alcohol-free environment. And it was incredible. And it was about spirituality and about recognizing who we are as a people. And we danced with those Torahs because that Torah, if we knew what that Torah really was, and I mentioned there on Simchas Torah that if we would understand how to read the letters and words in different ways, the Torah is not just Bereshis Bara Elokim. It's not just all the laws between Bamidbar, and which is itself almost infinite. But in the Torah, if you knew how to read all of these letters, take out the Sefer Torah, and if you can move the Parshas around in ways that we can't even imagine, Every single secret of the world is in that Torah. Everything you'd ever want to know. How to revive a human being, how to bring somebody back from the dead. It's all in the Torah. You want to know how to make a universe? It's in the Torah. Histaka ba'araisu ba'ara'amu, says the Chazal. HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked into the Torah and then created the world. These are mind-boggling ideas and maybe difficult for us to fathom, but at least we have to hear them. At the youngest ages, we have to hear them because these things, after a while, they start seeping in. And eventually we start recognizing, yeah, wow, it's all because of Torah. It's all because of this vision how HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants man to achieve a certain pinnacle of spiritual connection. And that justifies the entire world, and that's why everybody say, why was man created one? Why was HaKadosh Baruch Hu very, very focused on making just Adam Rishon? He then made Chava from Adam. But he made Adam by himself. Somebody has the answer? To teach us that this entire universe was worthy for one person. One man. Anybody in this room would justify the entire universe being created. Any one of us. Which is pretty incredible. Which is pretty mind-boggling. I guess, yeah, if you let it overwhelm you, it can almost make you paranoid. Oh my gosh. This whole world for me? Everything here for me? What does that put on me? What kind of incredible responsibilities does it place on my shoulders? Well, let's take a deep breath and relax. Does not mean we have to be perfect. And it doesn't mean we won't have challenges. But it does mean that if we're going to fulfill that mandate, number one, we have to pick our heads up. And number two, we have to recognize what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. Being awake is critical. Because if we're not sensitive to who we are as an individual, if we're not sensitive to our potential, to our inherent greatness, then we're never going to make it. And therefore, right after HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us why I made the world, He tells us how special you are. And a pasuk, Rabbi, I would beg of you, I think it's a pasuk we have to put on every single room before, in our rooms before we go to sleep. We look at that pasuk, or when we wake up, we look at that pasuk. And that pasuk, in a sense, synopsizes the very fundamental aspect of our uniqueness. And why we are not like anybody else. And why we're not going to buy into the philosophy that we just came from a bunch of monkeys from millions and billions of years ago. This idea that we're just sort of another freak of an evolutionary anomaly. And somehow there's some big jump between the chimpanzee and the human being. It's a bunch of malarkey. You want to tell me God made the world in expedited fashion through this process? Well, we can debate that. But you want to take God out of the equation and tell me that all we are is, again, some result of an evolutionary process of survival of the fittest? Excuse me? Then that's baloney. Because the Torah tells us, Vayipach ba'apov nishmas Elokim. God tells us, Rabbi Yisrael, please, never ever forget this. And if you remember this at all times, when you're tempted in the wrong way, when you're in that place, in that room, in that party, in that situation where maybe, God forbid, you got a friend pulling you in the wrong direction, and you don't know what to do because you can't really decide whether I belong at that place downtown or I don't, whether I should press that button or I shouldn't, whether I should buy into this temptation or maybe not. When you're up against it and you really don't know what to do. If you can remember this pasuk, Rabbi Yisai, it might help you. If you stop and reflect that the pasuk is saying, Vayipach ba'apav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu literally blew into man. Vayipach ba'apav, He blew. You take a balloon and you blow it up. What do you have in that balloon? Very good. Whose air? Exactly. The air of the source of the being and the force and the power that blew it up. That's what you have. Stop and reflect. God blew into us the spirit of life. What does that mean? That means in us, in every single living human being, is the inherent greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Kedusha and the literally the, I don't even say the words, but some aspect of godliness. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Man de Nofach, says the Zohar, Man de Nofach, when you blow into something, Midilei Nofach, you blow into that what you have inside of you. If you want to understand why we have a special spiritual component, why we're not feeling the exact same way when we all said, Yom Kippur's ebbing away, and we said Hashem Ulakim 7 times. And there wasn't a shul in Los Angeles where the walls weren't reverberating. And everybody at that particular moment in time, that Shema Yisrael, and that Baruch Shem Kavod Machusai, and those 7 Hashem Ulakims, don't tell me you were no different than an animal during those seconds. It's not possible. You felt it. You knew you were different. You go to a place where it's inspiring. You go to a, God forbid, we should never have it, but we have funerals on a, unfortunately, too regular a basis. And we go to a funeral and we think about our mortality, and we start getting feelings of I want to get closer. I want my life to be more meaningful. Cows don't feel that. Dogs are wonderful. They don't feel that. We feel it. We have spirituality, Rabbi say. One of the proofs of our existence, one of the proofs that we're not a function of the evolutionary process is because we have the Ruach Umala, we have the ability to speak and to feel and to think and to be inspired that nobody else feels. No other animal in the kingdom of animals matches what a human being is. So if we remember at that moment of maybe temptation, wait a minute, who am I? And what am I about to do? What trap am I about to fall into? Where do I not want to go? As alluring as it might be, I can't. I share every year, I don't think I shared it this year, but I share every year Rabbi Kellerman Story with very, very quickly with his, I think it was a 5-year-old kid, they nicknamed him Kadosh. And little Kadosh had to go to the bathroom on the bus between Tel Aviv and Yerushalayim. And you try to tell a Neged bus driver, those of us, we have some Israelis in the audience, anybody who's going on a cross-city bus from city to city, okay, and you tell a bus driver to stop for my little kid because he needs to go to the restroom, forget it. It ain't happening. Okay, the bus driver just revs it up from 100 miles to 120 miles an hour as he's making those turns on the highway. But it ain't happening that he's going, but this kid, Kadosh, kept complaining that he needs to go to the restroom. So the bus driver finally relents and he pulls over on the road and the kid goes out. Okay, wasn't trying to confirm, but I actually think I know where he stopped. And it was like a tavern right near the highway, and he pulls over. He said, okay, go, quick. So yalla, so he runs in and he runs out, and Rabbi Kellerman says, okay, everything okay? He says, it's okay, I don't have to go. You don't have to go. You've been draining us a cup. All this for the last half hour, you have to go. And now he finally pulled over. And it's okay. I'll wait till we get to Yerushalayim. What do you mean? He says, I'm Kadosh. I can't go in there. It's not a Kadosh place. And therefore, I'll wait. When you know who you are, when you know your inherent sanctity, when you recognize you have godliness within you, within us, Rabbi say, it's hard to go where you don't want to go. It's hard to go where you don't belong. It's hard to fall into that trap. We fall into that trap when we forget who we are, when we think we're no different than the animals. When we try to make an excuse for us as, that's it, I'm human, and we do make mistakes. I'm not here to say we have to be perfect. That's not going to happen. But we have to recognize the number one power we have to defeat the Yetzer Hara. And that's recognizing our greatness. Vayipach pa'pov nishmas elokim, Rabbi say. We have godliness within us. Okay, absolutely. And that's the beauty of life. The beauty of life is to look those taivas right between the eyes and say, you know what? I know who I am. Taiva is desire. Taiva is passion. And that's the balance between the spiritual and the physical. God gave us in our body, which is physical, which does resemble the animal kingdom. If you strip our neshama and all we have is a body, then that's essentially we're like the monkey world. But once you add a neshama, once you add what God added and made us unique and special, B'shvil Torah shikareches, B'shvil Yisrael shikareches, once you add that component, then it's a different ballgame. And as difficult as it might be, we can do it. We can tap into that. We can feel it. And that's why in the depths of the Holocaust, when you think that basically there was no neshama left, when Jews were so forlorn and so downtrodden that they're ready to throw in the towel, and many Jews wanted to die. Many of the Jews were looking to end their lives. And an incredible story I once heard about a young Hasidic, maybe late teenager, maybe early 20s. She became a very big fan of a very famous Jewish author called Elie Wiesel. And Elie Wiesel was a Holocaust survivor. And he wrote about the Holocaust. He wrote other books, and he was passed away a few years ago. He was really one of the towering figures in literature for many, many decades. Made great contributions to not only the world of literature, but the world of thought, the world of challenging one's ethics and looking at what we have to do. And this Hasidic girl told her father, I hope you don't mind, Tati, but I'm going to an Elie Wiesel book signing because he's coming out with a new book and I'm a big fan of his. And it's in the neighborhood. I'm going to see his book. I want to be at his book signing. And the Hasidic father said, okay, if that's what you want to do, go right ahead. He didn't say no. In fact, he says, when you get there, tell Mr. Wiesel that Baruch sends regards. Baruch, we'll give him a name, Baruch Rabinowitz, just for lack of remembering the exact name. So tell him Baruch Rabinowitz sends regards. So she goes to the book signing, and Elie Wiesel is sitting there, and of course, probably said a few words, and he's sitting there signing the books by the table, and she's waiting for her turn, and she says, I'm a big fan. He signs the book, and he said, by the way, my father told me to send you regards. He knew you from the concentration camps. Oh, really? That's really nice to get regards from him. What's his name? She's, Baruch Rabinowitz. Baruch Rabinowitz is your father? Do you know who your father is? Do you know how special he is? And she said, no, my father really didn't talk about the concentration camps, and I have no idea. Well, let me tell you. Baruch Rabinowitz saved my life. He didn't just save my life, he saved about 15 other Jews' lives at one time. And let me tell you what happened. We were in can we stop with the clanging, please? We were in the depths of the horrors of that Gehenna called the concentration camp. I don't know if it was Auschwitz or Treblinka, whatever it was, one of these horror places, one of these crematoriums, and we were so despondent, and we did not want to see the light of day. We did not want to live. Life was a complete Gehenna. And therefore, a number of us decided when we found out that two of the Russian soldiers were going to take their lives because they too couldn't stand it. And there were very often times when prisoners of war were also put into the concentration camps. And two Russian soldiers had poison with them. And they decided to take their lives because who wanted to live in a place like that? And a bunch of us, Elie Wiesel is telling this girl, a bunch of us decided to ask them if we can join. Who wants to live? And we lined up and we waited to take that poison so we can finally end our lives. Not have to worry about dealing with these Nazis, Yamach Shalom v'Zichram. And your father got wind of the plan. And your father came over to us as we're standing in line behind one of the barracks, waiting to take this poison, waiting to take our lives, stuffing our lives out, not knowing that maybe 5, 10, 15 years later, we're winning Nobel Prizes, and we're changing the world with what we could be doing. Only thinking about today and not about tomorrow. We're going to die. We're ready to die happily. And what do you say to somebody in that kind of a horrible situation, where death seems a lot a lot more appealing than life. He came over to us. He says, guys. And he started singing. Didn't give us a schmooze. Didn't scream about we're going to get out of here. He just started singing. Ani Mamin. And Elie Wiesel was saying, that Ani Mamin, that idea that I believe in who I am, B'vias HaMashiach, I believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is ultimately in charge. I believe that there is a purpose for my soul. It so penetrated. It so moved us that all of us put down that poison. We decided to live. And just one of those people became Elie Wiesel, the literally Nobel Prize winner for literature, and somebody who greatly impacted this world. Rabbi say, when we tap in to who we are, no matter where we are, we know we're special. We know we have a mission. We know we have a vision of what we have to accomplish. If you remember those two psukim, these two critical psukim, Bereshis Bar Elokim. You want to know why we're here? We're here because of Klal Yisrael, and we're here because of Torah. We're here to embrace it, we're here to live it, we're here to reach a pinnacle of our spiritual potential. And how do we know we can do it? Because Vayipach Ba'apav Nishmas Elokim. Because he blew it into us. God himself blew into our neshama. And that's what we have. A chelik Elokami Ma. We have literally a portion of godliness, of God's essence within our bodies. That's what makes us alive. That's the neshama that we have. Rabbi said, if we can remember this, we can live it. When temptation comes by, we can understand the nobility we have to feel and how special we are. B'ez Hashem, we will fulfill that mandate. We will fulfill the vision. B'shvil Torah Shekareshis, B'shvil Yisrael Shekareshis, and that's what's bizocha to be a Samashachim Heavy.